Coming up on Behind the Click.
Looking at it strategically, it's the biggest mistake you can make because AI will be the future. It's already the future. It's already here. It's reality. And not investing it is like not investing into internet in the 2000s. And that's a huge problem.
How do you get the mindsets of the SMEs to go from, I've got a lot of problems and AI is just one that I don't want to look at right now, to realizing that AI could actually be a tool and an asset to them?
AI is multiplying everything you put in. You can play it down. It's multiplying your money, your workers, but it's also multiplying your data. And that's the second problem of SMEs. It's not only the money you have to put in, it's not only the knowledge you have to put in, the training for your workers, it's also the data you have to put in. And that would be the first step.
Which part is your fear the most? Is it the fact that it's going to cause smaller businesses or SMEs a harder time to fight for their position in the market? AI is changing how we shop, sell, and run businesses, but not everyone is moving at the same speed. Big retailers are racing ahead, while smaller shops are still figuring out where to start. Today, I'm joined by Dara Kossok-Spieß from the German Retail Federation, HDE. We're going to talk about how AI use in retail has more than doubled in just 2 years, why small businesses risk being left behind, and what it really takes to make Europe's digital transformation fair and competitive. This is Behind the Click, powered by e-commerce Berlin Expo. I'm your host, Janine Heinrich, and let's jump into the conversation. Welcome to Behind the Click, Dara. I'm excited to have you here. And so before we jump into the heavy part of the conversation, I always like to kick things off a little bit lighter and easier before our conversation. So I've prepared a few rapid fire questions for you, as rapid as possible to answer. So first thing that comes to your mind. So are you okay with that? Good to go?
Yes, sure, let's do it.
Okay, so let's get into it. My first question is, what powers you the most in the morning? Do you have a coffee?
Coffee.
Oh, that was fast.
Rapid fire.
Okay, we'll
Coffee.
take it. Coffee. Okay, second question.
And a podcast, to be honest.
Really?
Listening to podcasts in the morning, yeah.
At which particular? Any?
So mostly news podcasts, to be honest,
Okay.
just to kind of set the day and know what's going on.
Nice. Okay, I like that. Good way to start the day. It's always interesting. Everyone's got a different answer. Second question to you: what's one thing that you absolutely cannot live without?
My family would be the answer that my family would love to hear, and of course, my cell phone.
Okay, I was gonna say, what's the non-family answer? Wonderful. So, what would be one word that you would use to describe your role?
Communication.
Communication. Okay, that's a big one then. And to the fourth question I have for you, what trend in AI are you the most excited or concerned about?
AI agents, both.
Okay. Okay.
Could be great, could be disastrous.
Oh. Okay, I know we're unpacking that in this episode, so this is a great warm up for that. And my last question to you, finish the sentence. The future of retail is
Online.
online. Okay. This is very interesting. And all of these points touch heavily into what we're about to discuss in this podcast episode. So I'm excited to dive into it. But before we even do that, I'd actually like to start by introducing listeners to what the Handelsverband Deutschland, or in English, the German Retail Federation, actually is, because this is where you're working and this is where a lot of what we're going to discuss is coming from as well. So would you mind?
Yes, sure. So the German Retail Federation is representing German retail to the world and to politics mainly. So we have an office here in Berlin, of course, but also in Brussels, doing the European regulation. The German retail are actually over 280,000 businesses with over 3 million workers. So we are one of the biggest industries here in Germany, and we're trying to represent this interests of small, medium, and large enterprises as well, to politics, but also to the main public.
Okay. That's a tough job. I mean, that's a lot of people's interests that you have to represent. So breaking it down to the nitty-gritty, what does it mean to represent their interest? What are the activities?
So I'm the head of a digital policy.
Yeah.
So my main job is to keep innovation space for the new thinkers of retail, but also to combine old traditional retail that we want to preserve. I think everybody loves European retail also for the shops on site, for the experience you have that is different to some other kinds parts of the world. Um, and to combine this in a modern way, in a way that we want retail to be people-centered and not only running after the next hype and trend.
That's a really big one. And I mean, as a consumer, I do feel like I oftentimes am seeing the European retail, the German retail space changing quite drastically, actually. So I see more and more, which is sometimes a bit saddening, more mainstream, bigger, larger corporate players taking over. And there's a lot of really cute boutique shops and things, but it feels like there's less of them and they struggle to really have a place in the market. So, what does it look like to kind of keep this European retail? What does that mean?
So for me, it
Yeah.
means to preserve the tradition, you have to work with the future, and that means also to work with tech. So preserving tradition, preserving this experience, preserving this atmosphere you have, the uniqueness of the shops, is to take tech in your hands and go with the time. So in German, you have the saying, those who do not change are going to be changed, so are going to be pressed out of the market. And I think that's a very, very important phrase for retailers, especially because if you don't change, if you don't move, if you're not ahead of your competitors, also using tech, you won't have the market anymore because consumers, they're lazy. Let's be honest,
we
they're lazy.
we
We're
like
all lazy.
convenience. It's
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I'm a consumer
yeah.
myself. Of course, we are convenient,
Yeah.
and therefore you have to use always. You have to be omni-channel. You
Yeah.
have to go with the time to preserve your uniqueness.
Yeah. And that's a really great point that you're touching on because exactly, as a consumer, I do want convenience. So as much as I do like these smaller, more boutique shops, this European shopping experience, I do get very frustrated if I feel like they're still in the early 2000s, but we're in 2025. And so I love to bring it to the work that you're doing, and especially around the research that has come from your work as well, because over, I believe, since 2021, you guys have published a ton of research around AI in retail. And so I'd love to actually unpack that a bit and understand how has the conversation around AI and tech adoption in general really changed since 2021?
Yeah. So 2021, we did 3 studies. It's 2021, 2023, and now
Yeah.
2025. And we started with AI being this fancy tech topic. We were mostly talking about AI Act on European level, and then trying to bring it into the retailers sphere and just to take a look what the SMEs especially are doing around AI. And it was like, okay, AI, cool, let's try it out. Where do we can actually use AI? Where are the possibilities to use it? Now, 2025, the percentage of retailers using AI in SME doubled, even more than doubled. So actually, we're not in the what are the possibilities, we're in the can I use it strategically sphere. And that's the most interesting part, where we think about what are the key drivers of success of AI implementation, what are the key factors to use it strategically and not only use, ChatGPT for
Yeah.
marketing, and also where are the gaps? Who is using it? Who's not using it? And what will happen with those who are not using it?
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing that we should really unpack now as well, because Nick, you've just stated the use of AI in retail has doubled in the last 2 years. But then my question is around how it's been integrated. So, do you believe that companies are using AI currently to its full potential, or are they stuck and still using ChatGPT to potentially help them kind of put a presentation together, make a couple of marketing campaigns? Where do they stand right now? Are they still stuck at the basics, or have they been integrating it well?
We have a huge gap,
Okay.
to be honest. So what we see in the 2025 study is that there is a gap. 73% of the large enterprises are using it. Most of them are trying to use it strategically. and holistically. So integrating it in all parts of their business, while looking at the small enterprises and the medium large enterprises, businesses, we see that only 23% are using it. So there is a huge gap. There is a huge gap of knowledge, but there is a huge gap of cultural change as well, and of money, to be honest. So it's all coming down to how much can I invest, and how we're talking about the German retail. So we have COVID, a lot of shops being closed down, having no revenue at all.
Yeah.
We have the Russian invasion into Ukraine and the energy crisis. Energy being one of the most biggest topics we were talking about as German Retail Federation last years, to be honest. And now we have 3 years of recession. We have a huge downplay of consumption, of consumer consumption in Germany. So the topic of how much can I invest into the future to survive, and how much do I have to invest now to survive, is one of the main questions the SMEs are having in retail.
Yeah. And it sounds like SMEs are in a tough spot, honestly. It makes me, with everything you said, I actually think to myself, how do they survive in this time? And like, is AI really the thing for them to be concerned about? I think if I'm looking at it from just face value, from the perspective of them, they're probably thinking, I have so many problems. The last thing I really want to be bothered with right now is having to learn how to use this AI thing that everyone's going crazy about. Is that, where do you think, why is that?
And that's a problem.
Okay.
That's basically the problem.
Yeah.
Let's face it. I mean, on the one hand side, I totally understand it.
Yeah.
Emotionally, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But looking at it strategically, it's the biggest mistake you can make.
Why?
Because AI will be the future. It's already the future. It's already here. It's reality. And not investing it is like not investing into internet in the 2000s. And that's a huge problem. We are not talking about trainings. We're not talking about how to prompt. We are also talking about new business models and being prepared for those business models. We already talked about AI agents being the best or the worst thing to happen. So how do I prepare for that? You have to need a strategy for that.
Yeah. And this is the thing that I'm wondering about, because one would hope that AI could potentially be more of like the great equalizer, right? So, for example, we had a guest who came on the podcast earlier, Alexander Sharmach from Flaconi, and she was saying using AI within their company enables them to streamline processes, remove inefficiency. So actually, they're able to do much more with less, because they still have the same amount of people, but because AI has taken over certain tasks, the company can even grow and do more with the same amount of people that they currently have. And so this is where I'm curious to understand, because how do you get the mindsets of the SMEs to go from, I've got a lot of problems and AI is just one that I don't want to look at right now, to realizing that AI could actually be a tool and an asset to them?
Yes, totally agree with what she said. AI is multiplying everything you put in.
Yeah.
You can play it down. It's multiplying your money, but it's also multiplying your data. And that's the second problem of SMEs. It's not only the money you have to put in. It's not only the knowledge you have to put in, the training for your workers. It's also the data you have to put in. And that would be the first step.
Yeah.
So you don't only have to work on AI and a strategy on how to use it, where to use it from, HR, stocks, I don't know, shelf marketing, social media. You can, or a holistic, strategic AI use, but you also have to put the data in, and therefore you have to own the data. And that's one of the biggest other problems a lot of SMEs have. They do not have the data quality to really work with AI. And that's always the first step.
And now I'm sitting here feeling daunted listening to you, because I'm thinking of this from the mindset of a business owner, someone who's running an SME, and I feel daunted thinking about that, because it's like, okay, where do I even start? So, do you have an example of a company or a companies in your network that are SMEs that have taken it upon themselves to integrate AI more into their business, and where did they start?
Yeah. So I always say everything is solvable. It is. It
Okay.
sounds horrible. I know, and I mean it's part of my job to make it sound
It's very
horrible.
optimistic.
But it is there. There are solutions for everything.
Yeah.
You have just to tackle it down. I would say take one project, try it out. Look at your company or at your business
Yeah.
and say, what's the most time-consuming thing I get the least revenue from? Is it social media communication because it's something you're not a fan of? It's nothing you can do authentically, so you have to sit there and think of new post ideas. Outsource it to AI. Try it out. Find a solution for that. The second thing is the data thing. That's something that every SME and every business can solve. It's not nice work. Let's be honest.
It's
It's not.
painful.
It's painful. It's hurting my heart.
Yes.
I totally understand it. But you have to do it. And it's like spring cleaning out at home. You have to do it once and then you have to maintain it. But then after that, it's really, really easy. And the third thing is start to work with networks. You're not out there alone. Nobody is. I know we're all competitors. I know it's retail. I know it's hard business.
Yeah.
But use the networks. Use the communities. There are a lot of them out there. And especially for SME, there are a lot that empower each other, that try things out and use the possibilities that are already out there. I mean, we have the HDE has the Mittelstand Digitalzentrum, the digital center.
Yeah.
It's sponsored by the Ministry of Economics.
Yeah.
And there we have best practices. They're out there. We did it with other small businesses already. Look at it and find some kind of project that fits into your business as well.
And you know what I think is interesting, as you say, networks and the information's out there and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. One of the things that you stated when we talked to prepare for this conversation was a lot of these companies feel like they have to do it all themselves and they have to do it from scratch. So where do you think that this perception of having to do it all from scratch is coming from? And yeah.
I think it's German mentality. I think I don't know, but I personally feel it's like a really German thing to think that not to use AI as a service or other IT as a service, to think that you have to do it all alone, that you have to integrate it into all parts of your business. I think it's also a huge fear of failure. I mean, we have such a bad failure culture in Germany. Failure is one of the biggest things, the worst things that can happen to you. And we know from the American perspective, you have to fail. You have to fail fast to grow. And I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was one of the most shocking things or eye-opening things for me when I first moved here. Because I definitely came from this like run, hit a brick wall, and then you just run through the brick wall and you keep doing it and you mess up and it's fine. And I came here and I was like, oh, we're not allowed to do that. Okay.
No.
So what are we doing here? It's definitely a mindset shift. And I can also empathize with the business owners, though, that are hesitant or feel like potentially that they have to do this whole thing from scratch. But then my question is, okay, fine, I've decided. I've picked one project. I've looked at it. This is the one project taking the most amount of time with the least amount of revenue or positive contribution to my company. I want to get started with this. I'm not going to do it myself. So yes, okay, I look at the HDE website or the German Retail Federation's website, and I've gotten some best practices, but who's going to do it? So what happens from there then? So are these companies hiring with money that they don't have to hire? How have you seen this being done?
So actually one of the top factors of success is when top management is doing it or is involved. I mean, they're not doing it themselves, but if you as an owner do it yourself and do work, for example, with an eye as a service provider, that's one of the factors that will drive success. Because if it's from the head, and if it's not only the intern doing it, because he or she is young, he knows how to do that, then it has another priority in the business. And AI being a priority is already a key factor of success. But yes, of course, you have to work with service providers, try them out, and try it out yourself. Perhaps that's what would be one of the first things. Going on any side of AI and taking a look what it can do, how it works. Sometimes it's working really, really bad. Let's be honest. Some AI things are really mess, a huge mess. I mean, we have to face it as well. And not having this fear to touch AI and to work with it is the first and main factor. And the second one, of course, is also the connectivity to other systems you have. So after this first step, after using it, after trying it out, after finding your business case, trying to put it in a strategic way into the whole business, not being this island somewhere doing something, but being part of the business and then trying to take this growth moment where it's multiplying everything you have.
And I think it's interesting. So you've brought up the fact that top management needs to be bought into this so that there's proper support and stakeholders who are helping to push this initiative forward. But now we talk about the people who are implementing it on the other side. And oftentimes AI is seen as something that stays with the tech team. It's their thing. They do it. The rest of us, we just put our numbers in and the data and that's it. But also your report has pointed to this, and you've even pointed to this in our other conversations. We're now at a dissemination point where AI has to move from being just the job of the tech and actually has to be the job of everyone else at the company as well. So how does that dissemination look? How can a company get started with integrating it to the employees who aren't techie?
Yeah, so I think another German discussion is that you have to be very sensitive because we have a huge fear of AI. So being in communication with your team and trying to find ways to communicate that this will help us and this will help you. Talking about convenience, I mean, we're also all working people, so we're not only consumers. Making it convenient to the workers, and explaining what it's for. I am really, really, to my heart, sure that if people know the sense and the impulse of something, and when they know it will suit me, it will benefit me, it will benefit my my business or my the place I'm working, then they have an impulse to work with it. If it's just another bureaucratic thing they have to kind of mark and say, okay, I did it today, check, they won't use it. Or they will use it, but not the way you want them to use it. You want workers to think with you. You don't want workers just to be around and check boxes.
Definitely. So really highlighting around the fact of, first of all, remove this fear of losing jobs and helping them understand that it's actually making things more convenient for them. And then, of course, helping them to understand the impact of the use of AI within their jobs itself and how that actually is probably creating more opportunities for them. But then the question is, when we're looking at the adoption of AI internally at these companies, how do we actually really build the real literacy around the use of AI itself? Because especially if we talk about Mittelstand or the SMEs within Germany, it is a bit more of a traditional environment as compared to the larger enterprises within, like, as compared to a large enterprise company as well. This is usually different company cultures. It's maybe not as fast paced or as dynamic, or at least that's the stereotype of it. So
it is.
yeah, feel free to correct me on that one. So that's why I'm also curious to understand, how do you really build the real AI literacy internally? Is it training programs? What would do that?
So on the one hand side, I would say nothing is more traditional than a corporate with its corporate structures, and there we have a lot of very innovative SMEs out there. On the other hand side, and I somehow know who you mean, and I have this picture in front of my eyes. So I can totally understand why it's the stereotype.
Mhm.
So using AI and being it part of the culture, um, and building this literacy
Mhm.
is not a business question, is a social question. I mean, we're in Germany, we're discussing to ban social media for young adults, not even for children as well, but especially
Mhm.
for young adults. Um, we're talking about fake news, disinformation, being used also with AI.
Yeah.
Um, so pictures, I read it, I think 2 weeks ago. We have more AI generated pictures on the internet right now than real pictures.
I did not
And
know that.
yeah, and
That's
videos
worrying.
out there. That's kind of worried. And not so many people out there can see the difference. And therefore, it's a social question. It's not nothing, really nothing businesses can solve themselves. AI and media literacy is something we have to do in schools, in universities, in clubs for elderly people as well.
Mhm.
I mean, the worst things I get from fake news are from people over 60.
Don't get me started. These
Uh,
WhatsApp group that my parents are in, I'm like, get out of the group. Get
yeah,
out.
it's
Yeah.
worse than Facebook
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mita. But so that's something we have to do in politics, that we have to do as a society.
Yeah.
And then it will have impact on businesses as well, of course. And then we have in-store trainings on AI culture. But it's nothing only in-store business trainings can do. The
Okay.
only thing businesses can do is business, and therefore business-related cultural trainings. And of course, we have a responsibility. We definitely do,
Yeah.
but it's not only our responsibility.
And that you already took the next question out of my mouth, because my next question was going to be, what role does policy play in AI literacy and helping to disseminate it into workers and everything? And you hit the nail on the head by saying immediately, this is a societal topic. So then my question is, so what's actually being done on a policy and industry level to make sure that AI literacy and competence is being built so that the workforce of the future and even the workforce of today is actually prepared to go into these SMEs and help them go from 29% adoption of AI to the 73% that we see at a larger corporation?
So we do a lot. Let's be honest. The European Union does a lot. Um, I would love to see a shift from regulation to enabling competence. So what we're discussing with the Digital Fairness Act and a lot of other acts in Brussels is regulating, trying to save, to secure, to put up frontiers. And what I would love to see is a shift to making things easier, making things possible,
Mhm.
and that of course means innovation. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm representing business. Of course, we want innovation, but it also means spaces for media literacy, spaces for the fight against disinformation.
Mhm.
And that's something I'm missing today. And that's something we would love to see. And what we also would love to see is after we put a regulation in place, that we start regulating them. And afterwards, we start to look how we can do new regulation to somehow improve what is going on.
Okay, could you explain that for me
Yes,
as
sure.
a as an
Because
outsider?
yes,
Because
yes.
you're saying the shift from regulation to more of
Mm,
enablement, and that
mm,
sounds beautiful. I'm like, yes, I'm all for it, because less rules, let's
mm.
get to it. But what exactly is currently happening that you would love to see a shift to more enablement? So what is the current state of things?
So what we do
Yeah.
at the moment, or where we see, is that we have the European Union deciding things, and a lot of things are supported by us as a business. So we supported the AI Act. We think it's great that main really dangerous topics are not AI driven
Hmm.
or are regulated. But we didn't even implement it, and now we're already on national level.
Yeah.
And now we're already talking about stricter rules, new acts, And digital omnibus, combining a lot of acts and changing something we didn't even start implementing. And the problem is not that we are changing legislation. It's not at all. The problem is that businesses in this current state are very, very anxious about everything's going on. They're very insecure. They do not have that much money to invest. So, of course, they freeze investments and stay there like this rabbit in front of the snake. Like, okay, we'll wait until they decide what they really want to do, until that's implemented. So then we know where to invest. So we do not lose money. And that's a huge, huge problem for any economic that wants growth.
Okay, and then that's what's stifling the innovation, and what you said is creating this innovation-friendly environment, because there's always a regulation. People are scared to move. They don't want the consequences if they do something wrong or something against it, especially if a new one comes around, so they freeze. And so what would the opposite of that look like, or what would the shift to a more enabling environment really entail then? Is it less regulations? What does that mean?
No, it's not even deregulation. So
Okay.
I think we would be very happy if those things that we already decided on, we as a European Union, that they just implement without the discussion and the strictening of new rules. So like freeze the new regulations for some kind of time and start implementing the things you already have, start implementing them for everybody. So I mean, that's the second problem, what we see with huge overseas Chinese, for example, marketeers being here as platforms, not being that regulated as the European Union business owners being regulated.
And why are they not as regulated?
Because they're not controlled. I mean, we
Even
have
though they're selling here.
trillions of parcels being imported into the European Union, not being controlled what's in there. So therefore, we say we need to control each parcel passing the border to the European Union, not the borders inside, to kind of have a say about what is imported at all. Are these things regulated? We have these design problems. I mean, we have the Digital Service Act, we have the Digital Markets Act in place, but we are not regulating other third country platforms. That's a huge problem for us. It's not a fair, level field anymore.
Yeah. And I can definitely say it doesn't feel like a fair leveled playing field. As a founder in the space myself and one who's talked to other founders, it oftentimes feels like we're not even at an SME level. We're still just getting started, and you get hit with so many early regulations and things that you didn't even expect to deal with. Like I was saying to you earlier, I didn't realize that for every carton that we would have to send of our item in a package to the customer, that I technically already have to prepay and pre-tell how much we think we'll be selling in that year, how much cardboard boxes we think we're going to be disposing of, and then prepay for the license or something like that to be able to have that for the company. And I was like, oh, okay. And then there was just a series of a lot of small things like this where I was like, we don't have enough. This could kill a business if we did not have enough in the very beginning. And so, but then I wonder is like, how do you even make that fair? Because this is where I often say to people, Germany sometimes has a similar problem to what you would see on the continent of Africa with brain drain, in the sense where you've got a lot of amazing talent and businesses that end up going to places that are just easier to build their company because the regulations sometimes are killing you to build your company here. So how is it possible to make it more fair? Like, do you see anything that's on the horizon to make that better?
So on the one hand side, as a techie myself, I see tech as one of the solutions. I think we are doing some steps forward here in Germany with the new digital ministry to at least make this bureaucratic construct that we have and that has reasons for it. To make it approachable through tech and therefore hopefully easier. That's the one solution. So making it easier because it's on your cell phone then. On the other hand side, what I see is we have a lot of great innovations in universities that we're losing because it's they're going to other places where it's easier. And that's the place where I would say, okay, that's what I mean with the shift to innovation. We have to make some space for people that want to work in Europe, in Germany, on innovation, business models, not only on research, but on business models. I think that's a huge, huge and really important aspect. We are really good in research, but we are losing the people on the shift to business modeling. And therefore, we do not, at least I wouldn't even say, I mean, I know how hard it is. We do not need to deregulate. We do not need to put everything down and say it's, I mean, those regulation we have, they have a good sense in mind. But at least we need to use them for others being on our markets as well. That would be enough for me, at least. I'm really, really patient, and I would say I do not need that much. Just using the same regulation on others would be enough.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you bring that up because I actually had the first-hand experience of this. So I used to work as a venture builder. So my job was to try to build new startup businesses within a corporate or business context. But what we did was we would work with research institutions, and our goal was to take the research and the output from there and turn those into business models. And one of the biggest challenges we would face, especially when we were working on very scientific topics that were regulated and they were coming to the market, was this constant push and pull between wanting to be fast and super innovative, but then feeling like we weren't giving the space to let that happen. And I think there's not one solution for it yet. It's in the makings of coming. I think the problem has been identified for sure, but we're just not there yet where it's been fully implemented or the space has been fully given just yet, it seems.
But isn't it a strategy that one of the most successful business cases and models we have is building a startup to sell it as fast as possible, not to grow it, not to be it your baby and your family and something you kind of want to make really huge and successful, but raising it to sell it the first point. I mean, that's something I see a lot. Raise something and then sell it. Sell it to the corporates because they have the possibilities to deal with the regulation. They have the possibilities to deal with the bureaucracy. I mean, it's a tragedy, isn't it?
It is a tragedy. It is a tragedy. I do think I am optimistic to believe that this model of business is changing because I also do think there was this hype for a while of people building, a lot of people being these founders who are founding to sell. And now there's more of these founders who are founding to have a bit more of a legacy and have the sustainability. So we're going to see probably a new era of this SME, Mittelstand coming up soon. Now there's a lot of founders changing it. But I do think it's extremely sad to see that it gets to a point where they have to sell it because the regulations and things weigh them down so much. And it's just like, okay, how can I? You can't do it anymore. So you need somebody big on your side to get it across the line. And that is stifling. And we're seeing the consequences of that, I think, as well. But now I'm going to shift the topic slightly to another one because you brought this up in the beginning. I asked you what's one trend that you're the most excited but the most concerned about, and you were very clear. It is AI agents. So could you explain to me what is so worrisome about it, but also what is so exciting about it?
Yeah, so imagine you have your list of buyers. I mean, of things you buy. Like for summer, you buy sunscreen and a hat. And each May, not you, but your AI agent that you designed will buy this in the amount you have without you telling to the AI agent, and it will be delivered at your home. You do not care at all. That's something we will face. That's something we'll face with food as well. Having your standard basket being executed by an AI agent, or you giving your AI agent €100 to buy you everything you need for a weekend trip to Brussels. And then the AI agent makes the research, it applies, it delivers. It could be great. I mean, as a mother of two, it's so much care work.
Sounds delightful.
Yeah, it sounds delightful. So much of care work being just transformed to an AI. It sounds so dreadful as somebody coming from retail and tech, because I have the questions. How do the agent decide what to buy? How does it do it? Do you sponsor things as a business? So do you have, like you have Google business sponsors for the search? Do you have this as well in your AI agent? So it will always buy at X and not at Y because it's just sponsored. Um, where where are the markers I have? For example, sustainability. Do I put them in? And how are those markers and factors executed? What's about fraud? Here, I mean, it's not 200 euros, it's 2,000 euros or 20,000 euros being pulled out from my bank account. So a lot of questions, making it the worst thing that could happen to humanity on the one hand side. And on the other hand side, it could make our lives so much easier, and I would love to see it.
So I felt like I just went through an emotional roller coaster listening to that. Yeah. They're very great storytelling on your side, but I wanted to ask, how close are we to that reality?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at the edge of it. I mean, we already know that we can build really easy AI agents at the moment already. But using it in the masses, we're at the edge of it.
Which part is your fear the most? Is it the fact that it's going to cause smaller businesses or SMEs a harder time to fight for their position in the market? So it means that it's really going to become a market where there's a few big players, they're running everything, and the rest, good luck. Is that the big fear, or is it something else?
So there are multiple fears. On the one hand side, I mean, if there's something people can learn from this podcast episode is AI multiplies things you put in. So of course, it also multiplies the market development we have. We have huge platforms growing and taking even big parts of the market. And of course, this will multiply this development. And of course, SME will be the first to be pulled out and pushed out of the market. The second thing is the question of global challenges and global market parts. I mean, European Union is great. I love it, love living here, but it's not the first driver of AI. Let's face it, let's be honest. So where will be the part of European Union in that? Well, where will be our interest in that? And the third question is, of course, how does it shift the consumer experience? So it's we're talking about those little boutiques, shops. Yep. I mean, it's amazing. But how often do you shop in boutiques? And how can they survive in this whole? How does it shift our cities? Will we have any supermarkets anymore in 10 years? Or will there just be some huge restock at the edges of the city, and then it will be just pulled in by a lot of little cars? So what about sustainability? What about people not being into AI? What about being part of the society? Retail is a huge part of society, of meeting people I do not meet at work. I do not meet in my private life because we're not friends, because we have other views, because we have other realities. How does it shift our whole society? And what we already see now is this: we're moving to a very cold society where we do not touch upon other realities anymore. So I think this could multiply as well.
The aspect AI multiplies things, and it's going to be a multiplier. That, I think, is a big statement and a very clear statement as well. And this is also making me wonder then, because, okay, it's going to impact smaller companies, it's going to be pushing them out. It's further going to exacerbate global challenges with, for example, EU not really leading the change in AI. And then the third part of it is how it influences the customer experience. So when we're looking at all three of those particular pillars in this case, how do you combat it? So, because on one hand, having AI agents sounds great for the consumer on a convenience perspective, back to the point of we all love convenience, which is great. But how do we now combat the negative aspects of it? So, for example, we start off with the first one, pushing out SMEs. Is there any way to combat that? If the algorithm's making the choice of which brand to buy from, which product, and those things.
And there we have to talk about regulation again.
Okay.
So, as I already told you, that I have a lot of questions how those decisions are made by AI agents, and in this sphere, of course, we have to talk about how my factors. Perhaps I want to put in that sustainability and supporting SMEs one of the main factors my AI agent has to follow. So there I could combat it as a consumer, but also from the regulating side. I think it's a good first step to make it's transparent how the decisions are made. So if something is sponsored, if something isn't sponsored or is due to any kind of other factor, that would be one. The second one is, of course, also the responsibility of business owners. I mean, I think it's one of the main points. As business owners, we are responsible for our businesses. So, of course, we have to go into there. We have to have great business models that are catching the people, the consumer, to buy from me. And that's, of course, one part is experience. I mean, we love going shopping sometimes. A lot of women love going, and men, especially my husband, loves going to shop. So, therefore, of course, making the experience great will save SME.
Okay. So on the one hand, so to the first point, it sounds like to prevent the SMEs from being pushed out, and we're looking at a regulatory level, there's no proper solution there just yet. This is where some of the regulations and things are going to need to be implemented to help to solve that. From a consumer perspective, when it comes to their own perspective, they can, of course, put in some parameters and things within the agents to help force it in the direction of a little bit more fairness in the decision making. But then when we come to the business owner perspective, it is also on them to take on this aspect of becoming more innovative, becoming a bit more service oriented, experience oriented to catch the eye of the consumer so that they can still be seen in the market. But to be honest, when I hear the SME has to be the one to take it on themselves to create these innovative business models and creating this customer-centric experience, and I hear that the customer should put in the parameters, I get concerned hearing that, because I think to myself, well, that's not going to happen. So we're back in the scary case again of AI agents taking over. I really was hoping to find an optimistic route in this, but I'm like,
I'm sorry for that, but yes, of course. I mean, it's the market. Consumers are lazy, and business owners have other things to do than dealing with tech. In the worst case, it will be that way. Talking about it optimistically, of course, what we see now as a trend is also customers being part of a community. Business owners make it, or businesses make it the experience a community experience, having the more than only selling something, but selling feelings, experience, and also somehow an identity, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think as we see retail shaping or becoming more and more personalized, because at the end of the day, 2025, you have to ask, do I need more than 20 t-shirts? What makes me buy the 21st t-shirt? And it's identity, it's community, it's having the feeling to be part of a group, part of something I want to support. And that's, of course, one of the momentum of SME especially. That's where they have the competition bonus, actually, because they have the warmth. They have this humanity, human feeling around them, not being huge corporates, being so distant to my world.
Yeah. It's really fascinating that you say this, because I've recorded quite a few podcast episodes and had a few conversations where AI has been a topic, where the future of retail and commerce is consistently discussed. And it really seems that we're at an age now where we can no longer neglect community. And it seems so much that now the main drivers of success for the future are exactly what you just said, which is focusing on experience for the consumer. Actually, even before that, when you said identity, it's being able to convey transparently the values of your company so that people can buy into it and also relate to it and have a sense of belonging towards it. The aspect of experience and making sure that they have a really wonderful shopping experience with your company, that they feel like they were cared for. And then the third part being community, that they feel like they're part of something. And this seems to be the consistent three that I hear across the board when people talk about the developments within the industry and even as ways to combat AI. With that being said, it always leaves my question though, where do we go from here at this point? Because yes, beautiful. It sounds wonderful trifecta. If we can get this trinity together, it sounds fantastic. But where do we actually go from here now, especially when we're talking about AI agents, AI taking over, becoming such a pivotal aspect within retail? What do we do from here? I've said that like 3 ways now. So
So what we do, we use AI. We do not condemn it. We do
Okay.
not hate it. We do not say it's kind of destroying everything. It's a tool. It's like a knife. You can make a great sandwich with it, or you can kill somebody with it. So you use it. You use it with your values. You use it with the pivot in mind that you have a community, you have an identity, you want to build something great that has some kind of value to the world, or at least to your customers, if it's not the whole world. Um, so that's the first thing. You keep in touch with other business. So it's about networks again. I said it once, I say it again. You keep in touch. Just do not isolate yourself, because AI multiplies everything. So it also multiplies your isolation. As a customer, I mean, when we're talking about why community is so important, of course, because we're also living in an age of isolation, of not being that near to my peer group, and of society becoming some kind of distant. So therefore, you stay in touch with your other business peers.
Yep.
And the third is you become part of the HDE to make regulation innovative and innovation friendly.
And I think those are 3 great points. And so we really looked at this very heavily from the consumer and the business perspective. And so now I want to take it back up a little bit again and zoom out. It's back to creating this innovation friendly environment, as you said, and kind of talking about the work of the HDE. First of all, now what does it really mean truly in practice to create an innovation friendly environment?
You have to invest. So you have to invest. It's about money. At the end of the day, business is always about money. And economic policy is also about money. It's not only about regulation. And when we talk about it, we are not only talking about the automotive industry that needs to be rescued in Germany or in Europe. You have to put in money in there for the infrastructure, for the innovation hubs, for the business models, for the SMEs. If you do not want for them to be destroyed, you have to make some kind of effort that is not only regulational to somehow support them and give them the means to become innovative.
Yeah. And what specifically is the HDE lobbying for, or in hopes of creating this more innovative friendly environment?
So what we do, we stay in touch with the politicians in Brussels, but also here in Berlin, and we talk with them and with everybody who's somehow interested in listening to it, to make regulation, at least to freeze it at the moment we have here, and to implement it and execute it now on everybody. So that's very important to us. We are not the federation saying you have to deregulate, you have to stop everything and build it down. We accept the regulation, but we want this regulation to be a rule for everybody, not only for us.
And that's exactly hitting the nail on the head of what I was going to get to next, because like you said, you've got these large players from the Far East that are here. Regulations are not necessarily applying to them. They're obviously affecting our markets as well in that sense. And so the question that I have for you is, of course, we see that threat, and as we discussed, the way to combat that threat is to make sure that regulations apply to everybody, is one of them. Are there any other things that can be done to ensure more fairness in creating this innovative, friendly environment besides making sure that the regulations apply to everybody?
That would be an amazing first step, to be honest. So we're still not there where we can execute it or where we do it. So that would be an amazing first step. And from that on, when we are always saying, and I'm always saying, let's try it out and let's evaluate it. I would love if a European Union would do the same, try it out and evaluate it, and then decide what to do. To not just to be in some kind of activist parole. Let's do it, everything at the same. Let's try it out and let's see what's gonna happen. And we want a fair, level playing field. I think it's great that we have a lot of platforms from the US, from China, from everywhere from the world here in Europe, and we have the possibilities for the consumers to decide. But I want them to decide on a fair basis. And that's the only thing we want from the regulation to be executed. I think it's really important that if we are talking especially about the climate crisis and about sustainability, that we go in there and that we see what kind of regulation is already applying to us as European and German businesses, and how we are able to apply it on others being on the markets.
Makes sense. So, in short, execute and evaluate. That's the one thing that you would want to see and probably make the world of difference in creating more fairness. And so, looking more positively now to the future, what is currently giving you confidence that Europe and even these SMEs are going to be able to catch up and potentially even lead in the transformation?
I think we're on a good way. So we made some first steps, and that's not only last year or the year before, but I'm at the German Retail Federation now for 6 years. Oh gosh, 6 years. And I've seen a lot of businesses, but also a lot of politicians being out there and trying to make this market better, trying to make it convenient, more convenient to the consumer, trying to make it more fair, trying to make it more sustainable, and trying to make it innovative and prepared for the future. So, from my point of view, the regulation and also the governments and the European Union politicians, they are not our enemy. We are all there on the same page. We're trying to create a world where we can do business and live in a sustainable world that is still there in 50 years for our children, in a market that is still also there, that is not parted by just 3 or 4 platforms having the whole market shares. So that's something, and that's something that's making me very confident and very optimistic, because I see a lot of very intelligent people, of caring people, trying and working every day. And I think that effort will show itself.
Yeah. Wonderful. And with that, we're pretty much rounding the conversation. So, on my perspective, I think I got a lot of key takeaways. From a larger regulatory level, you really talked about, let's just get to a point of actually executing on these regulations and then evaluating the impact before we create even more regulations on top of it. At the same time, you also say they need to invest in AI, and it's a social cause at this point, to make sure that it disseminates so that people can actually learn from it. From a business perspective, they too also need to invest themselves, but also invest in using AI and integrating it and trying to catch up and using it for their business, and understanding to join networks, because AI, as you said, is a multiplier. And from a consumer perspective, being conscious, putting in the parameters, staying aware of what's going on. But with all of those learnings, what is the one key thing that you would love for people listening to this conversation to take away?
I think the one key learning is really that do not fear AI, do not fear failure, and also do not fear regulation and bureaucracy.
Okay, thank you. And that's a wonderful note to leave it on. So do not fear.
Do not fear.
Do not fear. Thank you so much for joining the podcast, and thank you for all of your insights. This was great.
Thank you so much, Janine, for having me. It was a huge pleasure.
Of course, anytime. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Behind the Click. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast and leave us a review. It really helps others discover these stories and helps us to notify you when the next episode goes live. Also, remember to join us at E-commerce Berlin Expo in February to keep the conversation going. We look forward to seeing you there, and until next time.